The factory assembly line suddenly stopped working. The factory manager was extremely furious. He suppressed his dissatisfaction and walked into the factory's medical room. The team leader immediately gave an explanation. It turned out that an employee had been exposed to a lethal radiation zone. This led to organ failure, leaving him with only 5 days to live. The factory manager didn't hesitate at all. He immediately fired the now worthless employee on the spot. Mike, in order to make the most of his remaining 5 days, signed a liability waiver in exchange for medication. The medication would allow him to stay functional during his final days. Mike was devastated. He took his belongings and returned home. Seeing his condition, good friend rushed over to help him inside. Although the pills could ease his pain, the effects of the radiation were irreversible. Mike didn't want to die, because in the space station, any medical pod in a wealthy household could cure this illness. But ordinary people had no access to the space station. With his friend's support, Mike arrived at the hacker's hideout. The hacker had a way of sending people to the space station for treatment by hacking the system. Though the success rate was low, the cost was an entire family's savings. Mike was furious. He had served 3 years in prison for the hacker, but now in his final request there were still so many conditions. Upon learning that Mike had only 5 days left to live, the hacker's attitude changed immediately. Not only was he willing to help, he was ready to invest in Mike. The hacker then took out a data downloader, because the rich on the space station never come to the polluted Earth. But there was one exception. That was the factory manager. To ensure the efficiency of the robot production line, the factory manager often came to Earth under the protection of robot bodyguards to supervise. As long as Mike could download data from the factory manager's brain, the hacker could seize all of the factory manager's assets. At that point, not only would a one-way ticket for treatment be possible, but he could even control the entire space station. Mike would just need to casually walk into a rich person's home, and the medical pod could cure him. However, his current physical condition was not enough to carry out such a dangerous mission. The hacker then brought out a set of equipment. It could connect to Mike's skeletal system, giving him greater strength than before. To cure the radiation and stay alive, Mike agreed to all the conditions. He took great risks, and was transformed into a cyborg by an underground doctor. With these enhancements, the chances of success greatly increased. The factory manager arrived on Earth as usual for work, but no one knew that supervising the factory's efficiency was just an excuse. His true goal was to secretly modify the machine parts, to gain control of the space station. Now everything was ready. All the data had been uploaded to his brain. He would return to the space station under the protection of the robots to seize control. The luxurious private jet was already prepared. After the factory manager got in, the robots also took their positions as escorts. The engines ignited. The spaceship was about to take off. Mike had been lying in wait outside the city wall. He aimed at the spaceship and launched a tracking explosive device. He only had 15 seconds to act, or the spaceship would enter supersonic speed.